You've prepped for months, maybe years. Your basement looks like a small grocery store. Water purification tablets stocked like candy fire, built 3 different ways. You're ready. You're the survivalist, the lone wolf. The one who saw this coming while others scrolled TikTok and DoorDash. But here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Look across the table right now. Your spouse, your kids, your aging parents. The people you love most in this world. In a real crisis, they're not your survival team. They're your liability, your dead weight, your Achilles heel wrapped in a warm hug. I know, that stings. But if you're serious about survival, you need to hear this. Because while you've been learning to purify water, they've been living in a bubble. That bubble of normalcy will pop the second things go wrong. And when it does, it won't just endanger them. It will endanger you. Here's what we're covering today. First, the psychology of why family resists survival plans. Second, the brutal mathematics of resource drain. Third, the panic paralysis phenomenon when disaster strikes. Fourth, real stories from survivors who trained together. And finally, what you can actually do about it. Not the feel-good prepper forum advice, the real uncomfortable truth. When the people you love become the biggest threat to survival. Let's start with the elephant in the room. The thing that'll kill more prepared people than any disaster itself. Your family doesn't believe it's happening. There's a cognitive bias psychologists call normalcy bias, and it's one of the most dangerous biases we have. Research shows 70 to 80% display this during disasters. 70 to 80%. That means if you've got a family of 5, statistically, 4 will spend critical minutes convincing themselves everything's fine. The fire alarm's ringing, smokes filling the hallway, and your spouse is finishing their coffee. It's probably just burnt toast, they'll say. It's probably a drill. The air raid siren wails. Teenage daughter takes a selfie. Nothing ever happens here, she'll remind you. You're always so paranoid. This isn't stupidity. It's how the brain protects itself. From overwhelming information, the mind shields itself instinctively. When faced with threats outside everyday experience, minds default to finding normal explanations. It's a survival mechanism, except in survival, it kills. Here's what normalcy bias looks like in practice. On the 11th of September, 2001, research found 70% of survivors delayed evacuation. They weren't panicking and running, they were milling around, checking with colleagues looking for normal explanations. Several minutes passed, convincing themselves this wasn't happening. Several minutes they didn't have. During Hurricane Katrina, countless ignored mandatory evacuation orders. Because storms always blow over, we wrote out Betsy back in 1965. Normalcy bias. During early COVID-19, remember packed beaches and crowded bars. People refusing to believe invisible threats could touch them. That's normalcy bias in real time. And your family has it too. They have to. It's baked into our neurology. Research shows calm brains need 8 to 10 seconds. Under stress, that process slows even more. When the brain can't find acceptable responses, it fixates on a single default solution. Often that solution is do nothing, wait for normal to return. Think about it. Have you ever felt something off? But you talked yourself out of reacting. Maybe you heard a loud crash at night and lay in bed convincing yourself it was just the cat. Or you smelled smoke but figured someone was cooking. That split second of hesitation, that's normalcy bias. Multiply that by chaos of an actual disaster. A family debating emergency while building burns down. So you can have the perfect evacuation plan. You can have bug-out bags packed and routes memorized. But when the moment comes, you need everyone moving now. Your family will be standing there asking if this is necessary. They'll want to grab one more thing. They'll need to check their phone. They'll debate whether this is an emergency or just paranoia again. And every second they hesitate is a second you don't have. But it gets worse. Because normalcy bias isn't the only psychological trap. Waiting for your unprepared loved ones. Even if they accept something bad is happening, there's another response even more dangerous. They're going to freeze, not metaphorically, literally. Their bodies will lock up, their minds will go blank. They will become completely unable to act. This is called tonic immobility, and the research on this is disturbing. You know the phrase fight or flight? Turns out there's a third F not talked about enough. Fight, flight, or freeze. In modern emergencies, freeze is more common than most realize. A study tested 404 people with a simulated stressor. 13% reported experiencing physical immobility. 13% felt physically frozen in place. 20% reported desire to flee but couldn't act. These aren't weak people or cowards. These are regular humans hitting the off switch. And here's the cruel irony. The people most likely to freeze? Those with anxiety. Those who have never experienced real danger sheltered their whole lives. Sound like anyone in your household? Your kids who have never faced consequences. Your partner who panics when the Wi-Fi goes down. The freeze response is an evolutionary adaptation. In animals, playing dead can deter predators. In humans facing fire or floods, it's a malfunction. A glitch in the survival code that once made sense. When threats were saber-toothed tigers, but fails catastrophically today. You can't yell someone out of tonic immobility. You can't reason with it. When freeze response activates, the prefrontal cortex goes offline. All that's left is the primitive brain. Primitive brain decides the best option is to play dead and hope danger passes. Have you experienced this yourself? Maybe as a kid when a dog charged and your legs stopped. Or during a car accident when time slowed down. That moment when brain and body disconnect completely. That's what tonic immobility feels like. Imagine that happening to a spouse or child in evacuation. So now you are not just dealing with family members who do not believe. You're dealing with family members who accept threat but freeze completely. Dead weight you'll have to carry or leave behind. But let's say, miracle of miracles, your family believes the crisis is real. Let's say they all accept reality and start following your plan. You're ahead of 90% of households right there. Congratulations! Now comes the resource problem. So far, we've seen how normalcy bias delays response, and how panic paralysis can shut people down entirely. These psychological barriers are why most families fail early. Now let's talk about what happens in days and weeks after. Assuming you all survive the initial chaos. You've got your stockpile of food for 3 months. Water purification, medical supplies, everything calculated carefully. 4 people, 90 days, you did the math. You're prepared. Except you forgot about your sister who laughed at your prepping. You forgot about your college buddy 2 states over, who knows. You forgot about your neighbors who saw you hauling supplies. They will definitely remember when their kids are hungry. Because here's what happens when systems collapse. The unprepared do not just stay home and starve quietly. They migrate. They show up, they bring their families. And they expect you to save them. I'll just come to your place if things get bad, they joked. Haha, so funny, except they meant it. And now they are at your door with 3 kids. Nothing but the clothes on their backs. So you let them in. Because you're not a monster. Because they're family. Because you can't watch children starve. Your 3-month supply just became a 3-week supply. Maybe less. The average adult needs 2,250 calories per day. That's in normal conditions doing normal activities. In a crisis with stress and physical labor, that number goes up. Let's be conservative and call it 2,200. One person, 90 days, that's about 200,000 calories. For 4 people, 800,000 calories total. You've got that covered. You planned for this. Now add 3 more adults and 3 kids. Let's say the kids are young, only need 1,500 calories each. That's another 6,300 calories per day. Another 570,000 calories over 90 days. You just went from 800,000 to 1,400,000 calories. Your 3-month buffer? Gone. You now have about 53 days before starving. And that's if you're rationing carefully, if everyone only eats exactly what they need. If there is no waste and if nobody gets sick or injured needing extra nutrition. But it's not just food, it's water. 1 gallon per person per day minimum. You had 120 gallons stored. That covered your family for 30 days. Now you need 210 gallons. Your 30-day supply just became 17 days. And that's if nobody showers, nobody does laundry, nobody needs extra water for anything. Medical supplies, you have got a first aid kit sized for minor injuries. Now you've got 7 people, including kids who get hurt more often. Your supplies won't last. Medications, you've got a month of blood pressure medications. You didn't stockpile for your sister's insulin. She needs that to live. Every single day. The math is brutal. Every additional person divides your resources. They accelerate the timeline to collapse. Because as supplies run low, stress goes up. As stress rises, people get sick, make worse decisions, and burn more calories. They need more water to manage stress-induced dehydration. And here's the thing that really kills prepared families: guilt. Because you can't just kick them out. These are people you love. So you share more than you should. You give them your portion because you cannot watch them suffer. And suddenly, you're malnourished, weakened when you need to be strongest. This is how prepared people die, not from the disaster itself. From the aftermath, when resources get diluted across people. People who brought nothing to the table when survival margin evaporates. Under the weight of human compassion, survival margin disappears. But here's where it gets interesting. Because there are families who make it. Families who survive together. And the difference isn't luck, it's preparation beyond stockpiling supplies. Let me tell you about Kamaishi. The 11th of March 2011, the east coast of Japan. A 9.0 magnitude earthquake hits one of the most powerful ever recorded. 18 minutes later, a tsunami wave over 100 feet tall comes screaming toward shore. At the speed of a jet plane, destruction races toward the coast. In Kamaishi City, there were 14 primary and junior high schools. About 3,000 students in that kind of disaster, you would expect casualties. Children are the most vulnerable. They panic, they freeze, they look to adults. But in Kamaishi, something different happened. 99.8% of those students survived. Out of 3,000 kids, only 5 died not at school when the wave hit. They called it the Kamaishi miracle. Except it wasn't a miracle. As one resident later said, everyone could have died without training. It was not a miracle the drills paid off. For years, those schools had been running evacuation drills regularly. They practiced tsunami tendenko. Each person evacuates immediately to a safe location. The kids knew where to go. They knew how to get there. They'd done it so many times it was muscle memory. When the earthquake hit, students didn't wait for teachers to tell them. They grabbed younger children and started running to high ground. Some saw the first evacuation point was not high enough, they kept going. They made decisions in real time guided by their training. Meanwhile, in other parts of Japan where regular drills were not the norm, they went back into buildings to get belongings. They waited for official instructions. They died. Fast forward to the 1st of January 2024. The Noto Peninsula earthquake struck Ogi Junior High School in Noto Town. The school and community had been working together on disaster preparedness since 2011. They'd learned from Kamaishi running drills with students and local residents together. 0 casualties was the goal. When that earthquake hit on New Year's Day, residents evacuated without hesitation, without debate, without normalcy, bias kicking in. At the shelters, junior and senior students cared for younger children. Putting their daily learning into practice, survival became second nature. Training worked. Not gear, not stockpiles, training. If you want to keep your family safe when the system fails. Subscribe, we analyze what others ignore. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is all really dark. But surely there's a solution, some way to prep for this. Some magic formula that lets me save everyone without sacrifice. Without sacrificing my own survival. And yes, there are strategies, but they all require doing something you really don't want to do. They require having the uncomfortable conversations now before the crisis, when everyone thinks you are paranoid and annoying. You need to train your family, not just tell them the plan. Train them, practice with them, make it automatic. When their brains shut down from normalcy, bias, or panic, their bodies keep moving on muscle memory. Fighter pilots have a saying, in an emergency, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your level of training. If your family's level of training is 0, guess where they are falling? But here's the thing, training doesn't have to be this intense. Military-style operations make everyone miserable, resistance grows, seriousness fades away. In fact, if you approach it that way, you'll get resistance. Nobody will take it seriously. Think about how Japan does it. They integrate preparedness into everyday life. Kids learn evacuation routes the same way they learn their times tables. It's normalized. It's not scary. It's just what you do. For your family, this means starting small and making it part of routine. Not drills, games, adventures, quality time, teaching survival skills. Sunday afternoon, it's nice out. Hey kids, want to play hide and seek? The twist is you have to get to grandma's house, and I am timing you. Suddenly you are practicing your evacuation route and meeting point. But it is fun. Your 6-year-old isn't learning disaster preparedness. She's winning a race. Movie night becomes teaching moments. Watch a disaster movie and talk afterwards. Make it a game. Spot the dumb decision. Your teenager who thinks you are paranoid is suddenly engaged. Criticizing fictional characters is way more fun than being lectured. Build a fort in the backyard with your kids. Use tarps and rope. They think they're playing. You're teaching them shelter building. They'll remember how to tie those knots because they tied them 50 times. Trying to keep their fort from collapsing, survival disguised as play. Camping trips aren't just family bonding, they are soft skills training. Your spouse who panics without power experiences a weekend without electricity. It's an adventure, not a disaster. You're normalizing discomfort. You're building confidence, proving life continues without modern conveniences. The kitchen becomes your training ground. Have your kids help with canning. With food preservation with cooking from scratch, they think they're learning to cook. You're teaching them how to process and store food for long-term survival. Frame it as learning grandma's recipes, not apocalypse prep. Power goes out. Don't immediately flip the breaker back. Wait 30 minutes. Light candles, play board games. Let everyone experience no electricity. When it's not an emergency, make it cozy, not scary. Your family's baseline for what is tolerable shifts. The goal isn't to run military drills. The goal is preparedness thinking automatic. To build confidence to prove to your family they can handle more. Because when a real disaster hits, you need them to believe. They can do this. Survival is belief before action. You need to have the resource conversation with extended family and friends. Tell them clearly and without humor. Your supplies are calculated for household. If they want security of a place to go, they must contribute now. They need to store supplies, build their own stockpile, or have another plan. This sounds cruel, it sounds selfish, but you know what's actually cruel. Letting them believe they will be taken care of when you know they will not. Letting them skip preparation because they think you are their backup plan. And then watching them starve when your resources run out, that's cruel. The hardest part of survival isn't learning to start a fire or purify water. The hardest part is accepting that you can't save everyone. In a true collapse scenario, choices must be made that feel unthinkable. Those who refuse to prepare and who mocked warnings will face consequences. And you can't fix that for them. Survival is acceptance. Here's what you can do right now today to start addressing this. 1. Have the family meeting you've been putting off, but don't make it scary. Frame it as planning an adventure. Show evacuation routes like a scavenger hunt. Show them where supplies are stored as if revealing a secret treasure room. Make them feel included and important, not lectured, not afraid. 2. Start small with the training disguised as fun, not tactical drills overnight. But you can start with games that teach skills, build that fort. Go camping, have that power outage night. Make it memorable for the right reasons. 3. Address the resource issue head-on, but carefully calculate supplies per person. Factor in extended family who might show up. Figure out your real timeline. If it's shorter than you thought, expand stockpile or have a hard conversation. Be kind but clear. We love you, but we can't support more. You need your own plan. Survival is responsibility, not borrowed security. 4. Teach your family to recognize normalcy bias in themselves. Remember when we smelled smoke and assumed it was neighbors grilling? Remember when that car alarm went off for 20 minutes and we ignored it? Help them see the pattern. Give permission to be paranoid. A false alarm that gets everyone out safely is better than hesitation. The embarrassment of overreacting is temporary. Death is permanent. 5. Practice the freeze response with your kids, but make it a game. Play red light, green light, but red means remember your safe action. Grab the red bag, go to the door. Train their brains when scared. Kids love having special missions. Frame it as becoming real-life superheroes. 6. Build redundancy into your plans, present it as options, not fear. Plan A is everyone follows evacuation plan perfectly. Plan B is someone freezes. Plan C is separation and reunion. Plan D supplies lost or compromised. Talk through scenarios like video game strategy. What if this happens then this? Make problem solving together a family activity. Survival disguised as play. And finally, the thing nobody wants to admit, you can't save everyone. Despite your best efforts, despite your planning, some people choose danger. You'll have to let them face those consequences. Survival demands acceptance. Because the alternative is going down with them, and that is the end. I told you this wasn't going to be comfortable. Your family is your greatest weakness in a survival scenario, but also strength. A trained, prepared family is a force multiplier. Survival shared becomes resilience. Kids who follow emergency protocols without being told, discipline forged in play. A spouse who can split responsibilities, decisions made independently, quietly, firmly. Extended family with their own supplies support instead of draining resources. That's the goal, survival as unity strength forged through preparation. The difference between families who survive and families who do not is not about gear or location. It's about who prepared mentally, who had the hard conversations together, who trained until it was automatic, survival rehearsed until instinct took over, who understood that love means preparing them to survive without you if necessary. The Japanese have a concept called tsunami tendenko, evacuate immediately without waiting. It sounds cold. It sounds like every person for themselves. But it's actually the opposite. Trusting your family is trained enough. It's knowing they'll do the right thing because you've practiced together. It's loving them enough to give skills to save themselves when needed. That's what real preparation looks like, not hoarding supplies and hoping blindly. Not running military drills that traumatize everyone, but weaving preparedness naturally. So naturally that when disaster strikes, everyone already knows what to do. Building confidence through repeated small successes, survival rehearsed until instinctive, making survival skills feel normal instead of paranoid, culture forged in practice. Your family will get you killed, but only if they stay unprepared. Bottom line, start today by making preparedness feel normal through games and family activities. Calculate your actual resource timeline, including arrivals. Have honest talks about sustainability. Teach everyone to recognize normalcy bias and freezing so they can push through. These 3 actions practiced consistently create the foundation for family survival. Before I let you go, I need to say this clearly. Nothing in this video constitutes professional emergency advice. Consult real authorities. For guidance on protocols, evacuation procedures, and disaster regulations, consult FEMA or Red Cross. They have the most current location-specific information, plans tailored to your risks. But the core message stands. Preparation is a family responsibility, not an individual one. The time to build capability is now. When the world feels normal and safe, that's when danger hides. Because that feeling of normalcy is exactly the bias that kills. The families that survive disasters aren't the ones with expensive gear or bunkers. They're the ones who trained together, turning preparation into daily habit. Who built confidence through practice, survival rehearsed until instinctive. Who loved each other enough to have uncomfortable conversations and train. Your family doesn't need to become a military unit only comfortable with discomfort. They need to trust their training, knowing instinct will guide them. They need to know when things go wrong. Skills and knowledge will hold. And they need to know you trust them enough to act independently if separated. That trust is built through repetition, mistakes made in safe environments. Through celebrating small victories, survival rehearsed until instinctive. Through showing them over and over, they are more capable than they think. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Survival begins with responsibility. Train them not through fear, but through fun disguised as play. Prepare them not with lectures, but with experiences that teach instinct. Give them the gift of confidence, practiced responses forged through repetition. That's the difference. A family that survives together or becomes a statistic. Stay safe out there. Words heavy with warning and quiet resolve.